Welcome to the Directing Animation Livecast with Scott Weiser, who has gone from a studio of one to directing at Space Station Animation to supervising at Steamroller Animation, continuously developing over 15 feature film pitches on a quest to master the art of making deeply meaningful animated films. Okay, today our guest is Eli Harris, an award-winning voice artist. He does voiceovers for all kinds of mediums. One that is in particular interest today at the Animation Expo is for animation. You've voiced several things in the Tuttle Twins, and your son's worked in that as well, which is awesome. You've also done stuff for commercials. I think you have a very ubiquitous voice. You've earned the reputation of being called the image maker.
Interesting story.
Yeah. Well, let's hear that story. Is there anything you have to add to the intro that I just gave, or?
No, I've worked on several projects: Star Wars, The Order, Captain Keith, which is a new project. Yeah. Whoopi Goldberg made an announcement of a new streaming service that she's involved with, and we're also involved with projects on that. So I have quite a few projects under my belt that I've worked on.
Amazing, yeah. And just one more thing. This is not live like usual, right? It's at the Salt Lake Animation Expo, and they actually have to change their name really soon. So it's going to be announced tomorrow, but we're announcing it here as well. Just so.
The podcast name?
No, the podcast is always going to be the Directing Animation Livecast, but the Animation Expo we're at right now is going to be called the Sketch to Screen Summit. And their motto is going to be sketch to screen and everything in between, which is really fun for animation because you draw the key poses in animation, then you draw the in-betweens, right? So. Legal reasons. Yeah. Yeah. So for a few months, they'll be able to use both names simultaneously, but it will eventually be the Sketch to Screen Summit. Okay. So, but it's a great event. If you ever are in Salt Lake during this time of year, it's something that I've enjoyed. I've been to animation expos across the country, and I love this one. This has been great. It's been intimate. It's been fun to get to meet people, and I got to talk to you several times yesterday, right? So
yeah, we got to hobnob quite a few times yesterday.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So let's get right into the story about the image maker. That's the one I most want to hear right now. So
I actually got that from a client. So I had a client reach out to me for a project I was working on. It was for a promo piece, and he was going through my portfolio, and so he said to me, you just have Eli Harris, voice actor. He said, you need to have something that pops and just stands out. When I think of you, I think of an image maker, a person who makes images come to life. I said, that's pretty interesting. I said, can I use that? He said, sure, for free. You can have it for free. So that's how Image Maker came along. So now I'm the Image Maker.
Something that's very rare is I've interviewed a voice actor. He owned a studio of voice actors, right, on this show. And I've come across several people who want to be voice actors or say they do some voice acting, but you do this full time. This is a rare thing in the industry. There's something about your hustle. There's something about you probably have an entrepreneurialistic spirit that you are constantly finding ways to make sure that you can support your family and do this, and also get your family into it and do this. Yeah. So yeah, how has that come about, getting your kids involved in it and everything?
Well, we always have conversations with our kids. I have 3 of them. We have an older daughter that's 23, and then we got the 11 to 13-year-old sons. And I would always have conversations with them about what do you want to do when you grow up, and I think you can never start too early with them trying to get the wheels going on what they want to do, what their interests are. Yeah. So what you can put time and energy in and also build up, their confidence. And my 13-year-old, he loves cars. He loves working on cars. He builds Legos, works on go-karts, and he likes cars. My 11-year-old said, I want to be like you. I want to do voiceover. I want to act. And I said, okay. It's a lot of work. So if you're serious about this, we can discuss it. I'll let you know what it is that you need to do. Then we'll go from there. And I put him through the grinder, gave him an understanding of what this business is about, the need for proper training, the need to have the proper attitude. And he hasn't turned back since. And he books a lot of work. So now, because the 11-year-old has done it, my 13-year-old said, Dad, I want to give it a try. Now, my 13-year-old's, his skill set is a bit different than the 11-year-old's. And now that ever since he turned 13, his voice really dropped. So now he has a bassier, heavier voice. And I said, okay, gave him the same rundown. If you're going to take this serious, this is what we need to do. And got him into the booth, put him through the grinder, and he ended up getting cast alongside his brother and myself in the new animated series Kimbe, which is on Play Watch TV. And so now I have two kids that are following in my footsteps and will probably go farther than me. But it's legacy building for sure.
Want the kids to go farther than you, right?
Yeah, what parent doesn't? What parent doesn't? I think any parent that gets envious of their kid or doesn't want their kid to succeed, there's a deeper issue. Yeah, we all want our kids to supersede us, So that is definitely the goal.
And you also started at
Yeah.
Cherry Tree Players, right? Doing community
theater. Yeah, I started in theater with a play called King George.
Okay.
I was just a soldier in it, so I didn't have any major super lines, but that's where I got my start into acting. My parents wanted to get me involved, not only with that, but also martial arts, because I was very hyper. And so you got so much energy, let's find a way to channel this energy.
Yeah.
And so my parents decided to get me into theater. And then I did it in elementary school. And I didn't do it as much in middle school because then I got involved in gaming. Huge game at the NES days. Yeah. And I did some in high school, and that was about the extent of it. Yeah.
I actually started in theater too. So was it 7, 8? About 7, 8. It was like first grade. Our school decided to do The Boy Who Cried Wolf, and I got cast as the Boy Who Cried Wolf.
Oh, you got to lead right off.
Yeah. And crazy thing, I was playing on the monkey bars. I fell down onto the playground and hit my jaw, and my jaw was in pain. And I still went on and did that show. Yeah, and I got jaw jacked, yeah. But I still did the show. I still performed as the Boy Who Cried Wolf, and I did theater all the way through college. But in high school, our last show, I did a tour jeté in the air, like a dance move, and I came down and hit my jaw on the stage, and it cut open. So I had to go get stitches that day, and I still went on. The show went on, right? I think it's really cool we have that acting background in common, because that's what we do as animators. Yeah. We're pretty much just making those characters in the computer or on the drawing or wherever, the stop motion puppet. We're making them act. We're making them perform, right? And you do it with the voice, yeah.
And that's something that people don't understand a lot when it comes to our line of work. It's not just voiceover, it's voice acting. Yeah. So there has to be some acting chops that go into this. So like you do your acting, your performance with the artwork, we do it with our voice. And it's not easy. I'm sure people may look at what you do and say, oh, I can animate and do that. Then when they get behind it, it's like, oh man, it's a lot more to it than I thought. Yeah. So when I break down voiceover to people and give them an understanding of how our business works, I didn't realize it was that much involved. Yeah, it's a lot involved in this.
Yeah. How did you give your sons the proper training?
The 11-year-old really didn't need a whole lot of it, just because he is a very emotional person, very animated. He's athletic. So he's, my 11-year-old is the one who pretty much picks up anything and he's good to go. The only things that I really have to work with him on is, because he's so high powered and energetic, that when it comes to the roles that require more of a natural read, like take a deep breath, count, breathe, relax, in your nose, out your mouth. And now imagine that you're sitting down talking to me, because we look at the script and we're doing words on the script. Sometimes it's hard for us to visualize. So when it's lines where it's back and forth, take a look at the script, pretend that you're talking to me or whoever you're talking to, visualize you in that situation. You're sitting on the couch, with Scott. Yeah. So he's sitting on the couch, talk to me. Don't read the lines to me, talk to me. Take those lines and talk to me. That's how I've helped reach him when it comes to that. Now, ironically, the 13-year-old doesn't have that problem because he's very relaxed anyway. He is not as well interpreting the emotional aspect of some of these. So then I have to work with him and say, okay, do you remember when you went out for the football team and you caught that huge pass? How did you feel? I felt good. Great. Use that. Take that energy and use that. You caught the football. Say the lines. Yeah. And so it's working with those two. The dynamic between the two is very interesting, because where one lacks, the other picks up, and then I have them work together. So not only am I teaching them things, but then they're also reading scripts together and feeding off each other and helping each other with the things that they need to improve.
Yeah.
So the goal is to get them to work together as well.
An idea for
Yeah.
Tuttle Twins episode. Twins to come on, play off each other. They're your sons, so they can have another role in the show. I don't know that they'll do that, but it's inspiring. It's inspiring to hear how you work with your kids. You know, that's really great. When it comes to, I mean, obviously, working with your kids is helping them have a career, but you are looking to work with people across the animation industry, commercial industry, any kind of opportunities that need a voice. You want to be a part of that. How do you maintain a good relationship with them, that good connection that you're making with your sons? It seems like it would be the same kind of skill you need to learn to connect to the different people you're working with.
Yeah. So with that, it's a little bit different because with my kids, I know my kids. So I know how to reach my kids. When I'm dealing with clients and people that I'm trying to work with, it's a matter of learning that individual because I can't, I don't know them. So I can't treat Scott like I might treat Todd. You know, so then with that, I have to do my homework. So if I know that I'm reaching out to Scott to work at Steamroller, I might need to look up a bio, look up your LinkedIn profile, see what Scott's history is. Where has he worked? What has he done? I might take a look at some of your posts and see the things that you engage in and be like, okay, so Scott's into this. Scott can sing. Interesting. Okay. So then when we have that conversation, I could bring up some of those things. And that tells Scott, Eli paid attention to my profile. He took a look. He knows what I'm interested in. That shows that it matters to me. And, you know, with me, I'm all about building genuine relationships. I try my best not to see people as just business. And not so much that I want to make it personal, but nobody wants to feel like that they're just a dollar for somebody else. Yeah. You know, so when I talk to people, I do my best to make sure that I'm genuine, that the way you see me is the way that I am. And so to maintain those relationships is genuineness, authenticity. And I'm always able, for the most part with my clients, to have real conversations with them. And sometimes they'll, you know, share things with me that they probably wouldn't with just anybody. But because I've opened that door and, you know, somewhat made myself a little vulnerable as well to share certain things, now we've established a rapport and a relationship. And that's what a relationship is. You know, now some people you can't do that with. Some people, they keep it strictly, you know, business professional. But anybody that you talk to wants to know that you have done your homework on them. I've had people reach out to me, and I do voiceover, that was looking for me to hire them, you know, and that irritates me because I'm like, why would you, like, if I reached out to you and I said, hey, you think you can get me a job working at Boeing? You'd be like, you know, did you look at my profile? Did you bother to see what it is that I do? Like, in a way, it's a bit insulting. Yeah. You know, and it's not so much that you want to be a jerk about it to them, but it's just kind of like, I'm not here for that, you know, and it kind of makes you less likely to want to help out when you feel like that you're not really getting the respect you deserve for what it is that you actually do. Now, when people reach out to me and they say, you know, I'm a fan of your work, or, you know, I'm interested in getting into voiceover, and I've seen a couple of speeches that you've done, I'm like, oh, really? You know, which part did you like? And they'll tell me, you know, the part where you talked about the investment side of the business. I didn't know it cost that much. Oh, cool. Yeah, let's have that conversation. You know, let me help you understand what it is that it takes to get into this legitimately. You know, there's different ways to get into this. And when I talk to people, I try to make sure that I'm very real with them and what to expect, because there are a lot of people out there that talk about getting into the VO business and don't really give them the truth of everything that goes on. Mm-hmm. You know, so with me, I'm not selling you courses, or I'm not doing anything like that. I'm just going to share with you the little bit of knowledge that I have to help you, so you, when you get started, you can at least get going on the right foot and not be disappointed. And I had to jump a lot of hurdles in the beginning because I had a lot of different information, and I had to weave through that and learn the realness of the business.
It was like conflicting.
Yes, it was very conflicting, very conflicting. You know, you have one person telling you, oh, you can get on Fiverr, you can, you know, you can get on Fiverr and do VO, and yes, yeah. and you can do Voices 123, and you know, some of those platforms are good platforms. Like Voices 123 is actually a good platform. They have paid memberships, but they also allow you to get on free, where you can get some work. Not everybody has enough work built up to where they can get a good agent right out the gate. I didn't. So what I had to do was learn how to market myself. And the one thing I encourage people to do is to find your own voice. You know, there are a lot of people that are teaching different ways, different methods. Not every method works out for that individual. There's no real cookie cutter way. You know, so what I did is I go against the grain and I carved my own path and found great success doing what I do.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's when you said earlier about making it a full-time, you know, my full-time. That's how I managed to make that my full-time, is that I found my way, carved my niche, built my relationships the way that I do it, and it proved to be successful for me. But my way may not be another person's way. There are people that I know that are super successful that has TikTok. There are people that I know that have a different type of personality where they're outgoing and doing a lot of podcasts and things like that. I can't do what you do. That's not my personality, you know, but I have my skill set that works for me. So find your way. Do what works for you.
That's great. So one thing I noticed when I first met you yesterday is that at these animation expos, it's very tempting to raise your voice, right, and try to be heard. And you just spoke at your normal speaking voice. It's very fascinating. And I thought, oh, this guy's preserving his instrument, right? Yeah, let's speak to that a bit.
You know, there's a saying that, you know, the squeaky wheel gets the grease, you know, and to some extent that's true. But I also feel that if that is not part of your personality, then it doesn't come off genuine. I'm all about being authentic. So yes, I maintain this same level of speech, the way I carry myself, the way I talk to people. I don't feel the need to do anything outside of that to be noticed. And because I am that way, people like you notice that. Yeah. This guy is not being loud. He's not being boisterous. He's not doing all these things to draw attention, because that's just not part of my personality. But with some people that are like that, that's their personality. And for whatever reason, it works for them. Yeah. So again, it just goes back to being genuine. It goes back to being your authentic self.
I really want to speak to that. So you made me think about how there's a buddy of mine who's been on the show, Sean Boyle. Shout out to you if you ever watched this episode. Yeah, he's awesome. He is big and boisterous. And at the animation expos, I started to realize that, like, when I stand next to Sean, I felt like I was disappearing, right? Because he's so big and boisterous. But very quickly, you know, luckily because he's a good friend and because I'm a little more experienced than I was when I first started going to animation expos, I realized, no, I'm just going to continue at my same level, and that will be the contrast to big boisterous Sean, you know, and allowed him to be who he was as well, which was awesome.
Yeah. I noticed about you that you have a great level of energy.
Yeah.
You seem to be you're always smiling. You remind me of a buddy of mine named Tim Heller, who's a voice artist as well, voice actor, very talented voice actor, always smiling. And, you know, he does these different podcasts with voice actors and stuff. And I'm like, why are you so happy? You know, and not that I'm not happy, but it's just the smile. And, you know, some people, they have overcome certain things in their life to where now they have more of appreciation for things. And so he wears this smile, genuinely happy for people. So when I saw you, it made me think of Tim, because I'm like, this dude seems happy. He's walking around smiling, shaking hands, and just super energetic. Like, this dude is really appreciating life right now.
You probably didn't know it was one of the hardest days of my life.
Yeah.
It really was one of the hardest days.
Yesterday was?
Yes.
Really?
Because of different things were happening in the periphery of the expo. But, you know, I've learned to manage that, you know, and to realize that what is here and now is what is most important, right? And I had the opportunity to meet Eli. There was another guy that I had an opportunity to sit with. He's not the kind of person I would seek out to talk to, but it just felt like the right thing to sit down for an hour with this guy and have a conversation. And it's a conversation that would almost move me to tears right now as I think about it, that it was so great. So, yeah, thank you for noticing that. That was cool.
I'm a silent observer. Yes, I'm one of those people that I walk into the room and I assess everything. So by nature, because of the way that I am, I'm also military. I'm a military veteran. Yeah, I'm a military veteran, but just by nature, I'm a person where I just assess everything. Now, don't say anything, but I just watch and I analyze, you know, and I pick up on things. So that is my way of how I deal with things. So even with me, you may not necessarily know anything's going on just because I'm the same pretty much when you see me. But I have my rough days too, and you might not even know it because, you know, I could be this chill individual. It's like, dang, he seems the same all the time. Like, yeah, there's some things I'm struggling with right now, but I'm not, I don't let anyone know that, Yeah.
So I've been wondering, and this question is still in the back of my mind, do you do different voices?
I do. I'm primarily a deep voice guy, but most of the stuff.
It's an amazing deep voice. I mean, why wouldn't you use it?
Hey, it's the moneymaker. But the image maker. Thank you, Scott. Okay, so yes, I work on doing other voices as well. That's well outside of my range, and I do that for primarily animation. I don't get to do it that much for video games. I would like to, because I do a lot of video games, but I don't really get to explore the range that I want with that. But with animation, I do.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, probably because video games are more about natural experience, right? And animation is about being and finding a.
See, and that goes into the different skill set when it comes to doing animation in video games, because some people think they're kind of the same. And with animation, my job vocally is to entertain you. So like how you spoke about your friend that was loud and boisterous, animation, you're going to be more loud and boisterous, more, in your face with it. When you come in from a long day of work and you want to sit down and watch an animation, my job is to entertain you. With video games, my job is to make you involved. It's more of an immersive experience. So when you sit down and play a game, you're not really thinking about the character because you have become that character. So for instance, when I'm playing Madden, it doesn't matter which quarterback I'm using. I'm the quarterback in that game. Yeah. So when I'm voicing video games, my job is to make you feel like you're in that game and a part of it. And that's what draws the different performance. I do not do stuff on the spot very well. Yeah. And people ask me that all the time. And I had a gentleman yesterday ask me that. And, I'm just not a person that's an on the spot guy where I'll just bust out all these different voices. Yeah. And because if I do that, it's not going to sound right, and it's just not part of who I am. First. Yeah. Like I have to be in the proper mindset. Oh my gosh, man. Yeah. Woo. Yeah. There's been times I've been in the booth for a long time. And it could have been a 5-minute job. It ended up being like a 45-minute job because of that one freaking word that I just couldn't get right. So instead of tweaking the word, I go into and redo the entire thing. So yeah, I'm just not an on the spot person. Some people can do it, and others like nah. Because I think about it like if you went down the street and saw Larry Fishburne, right, Lawrence Fishburne. Hey, can you do Morpheus for me? He's gonna look at you and be like, what? So sometimes like some of us, we're just not good at doing stuff on the spot. Yeah.
That's fine.
Yeah.
Yeah. I have a great admiration for practicing. I'm more of a practicer too. So wife will ask me.
And you won't do it?
No. And she's like, why won't you? And I'm like, you are more terrifying than like a whole audience of 1,000 people because I care what you think.
You know what? That's a good point. Because I find that when we can do things in front of a crowd of people sometimes that we cannot do in front of one person. Yeah. Like I used to have the hardest time initially when I go into the booth to record. For whatever reason, I would have this level of nervousness. Yeah. And I couldn't figure it out because I'm like, there's nobody in there but me. And as voice actors, we'll make some of the weirdest faces to get the appropriate sound and emotion and energy. And so we tend to become self-conscious. So for the longest time when I would do directed sessions, I would have my Zoom camera off because I'm like, they might be looking at my face and I'm gonna look, all crazy and weird. I'm grabbing my throat and doing all kinds of things to get this sound out. And then I thought about it, said, you know what? It's just me in this booth most of the time. It don't matter how I look. And then these people that I'm doing sessions with, they see this stuff all the time. And I'm sure they've seen even worse. So I found once I became more comfortable and more confident, I was able to let loose a lot better and get the performances out that I wanted to get out that I couldn't do before because I became okay with who I was in the booth.
So I should have asked you this question beforehand. I've been working with a lot of voice actors recently for some pitching and stuff I've been building. And I should have asked this before you. I asked you to do something on demand, right? Are there any do's and don'ts for a director that you'd like to share with me as I work with you and future voice actors in the future?
I think the biggest thing for us is the clarity.
Yeah.
Sometimes we will get mixed messages when it comes to the specs. I can't tell you how many times that I would get auditions for certain projects, and then I would see the actual spot, and it was nothing like what was sent to me. So I think, well, for me, being clear with the specs of what you want. Now, if we're talking as far as live direction and stuff like that, I think another big thing for us is allowing us an opportunity initially to voice it the way that we see the script. Because oftentimes it's hard for us to get out of our head.
Mm-hmm.
You know, like we'll see a script and be like, oh, I got a good feel on how that goes. Once we're able to get it out, it frees up that mental space for us to be able to receive direction better. You know, now there are times where directors will have us, you know, do it the way they want us to do it, which is fine. And then they're like, okay, have at it. Go do whatever it is that you want to do. And they will find great stuff when they allow you to do that. You know, so for me, I think that's another one. This was a question that was asked to me yesterday, and I think it just depends on the project, but having an idea and getting the VO first. Because when we get a project afterwards, sometimes it's a little difficult, you know, because if we're looking at mouth movements and trying to match it, it might not necessarily go along with our cadence in the way that we naturally speak, you know. So like some of the projects that I'm working on now, like Captain Keith, for instance, they get all of our voice work, and, you know, the talented Alex Dessert, who voices Carl on The Simpsons and has been on several shows. And my son Noah is one of the leads in this one as well. They get all of our dialogue first, and then they animate to it. The same thing with Kimbe. They get all of our dialogue first, all of our vocals, and then they animate to it because they find it to be much easier. So if they need to go back and redo something, we already have the actor for it and know how their speech is, how their cadence is, how their mouth movements are, so they can adjust things, and it's less work for the editor.
So the very last question that I usually ask in this is more about directing in the story craft, because I interview a lot of directors and producers and stuff, but I think you actually can speak to this question too. So it is that if my goal is to get the highest clarity of meaning into a story, what approach would you recommend? I think one of your answers might be find your own voice, but I would like you to add on to that.
So can you clarify that for me?
So the goal that I'm going for is when you watch a piece of my animation, a piece of my storytelling, you feel like there's something so deeply meaningful about it that you want to just keep watching, and not just keep watching, but when you hit the end, you almost start to think, I think my life could change because I just watched that, right? Mm-hmm. Is there anything you do as a voice actor that you think contributes to that?
Okay, so you mean as far as getting the emotion into the character, because you can have a solid script, but if you have like bland voice acting, it completely kills the point. Right. Okay, so I guess this kind of goes back to what I talked about before. Have an idea of the talent that you want for that specifically. So I'll give you a good example. I worked on a game called Superfuse. Started about 2.5 years ago. Yeah. And they already had a prototype of the game, but none of the dialogue, none of it. And so they saw me, heard my work, and they reached out to me and they said, we want you to voice the Berserker. I'm like, cool. What is the game? You know, and at the time it had a different name for the game. It was a working title. It ended up becoming Superfuse. So they said, we'll get back to you in about a couple of months with the script, et cetera, if you're interested. We went over the budget, told them what my rate was, et cetera, et cetera. Now, in this particular instance, I went with their rate because it was lower than what I normally charge. And let me add that. One of the things is, please pay voice actors their rate. Yeah. Because there is so much nickel and diamond when it comes to our work, and people don't understand the amount of investment, time, training, expenses that we put into our craft. You know, I understand that everyone's on a tight budget, and depending on projects, I'll work with people on it. So this particular project with Superfuse, I work with them on a budget. But the contingency with that is, should this get picked up by a publisher, I want first refusal as far as staying on this project and my regular rates. So they said, cool, okay. So they came back to me almost a year later. I thought the project got scrapped. And they said, we're ready to go. We got the script for the first couple of worlds, first couple stages. Take a look at it. We're a bunch of white guys from the Netherlands. So we don't, and they were honest. They were very honest, and I really appreciated that. They said, we're a bunch of white guys from the Netherlands, so we only know what we see on TV when it comes to African Americans. So if anything in this script comes across wrong, it's not intentional, and if you got suggestions, let us know. That means a lot, is to have the actors' input into things, because essentially we become a consultant. And I'm tying this into what you said because you wanted to know how you get the emotion across and the meaning in your script.
Yeah.
So exactly. Yeah. So for one, when they told me that meant a whole lot to me, because that tells me they cared. The dialogue wasn't bad. It's just, it was, some things were just kind of like, okay, I can see why they went there, blah, 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 blah. And so we set up a Zoom meeting. I said, okay, let's go over the script real quick. I wouldn't say this. A person in this situation wouldn't say that. You know, we went over different things and they tailored the script to fit me. Now, because I was able to have some input into it, the script became more personal for me. And I'm not saying that you would have to change the script for anybody, but what I'm saying is that you want your actor to be able to connect to your script. And so once you get the voice and the person in mind that you want to work with, now let's see what type of experiences have they had. So right now, for instance, there's a show called Will Trent on ABC. And the writer for that show has been connected with veterans because they want real veterans on that show, you know, which I've had a chance to audition for. They want authentic. They don't want people that can just act like a veteran. They really want veterans because they know that a veteran will bring that real military mentality to that role. And so whatever it is that you're trying to get across, I think it would be good to connect with the actor who may have had an experience to bring to it. You understand? You know what I'm saying?
Absolutely.
Because I could sit here and fake it, but something's going to be missing. And you'll know it because if you wrote it and you have the feeling in your script, you know exactly how you want those lines to hit. And if I'm sitting here faking it and going through the motion and I'm just delivering, you're going to feel and be like, man, that's not really hitting me the right way. You know, get into it, feel it, you know, bring it home for me. And the way that you do that is working with an actor who can bring a life experience to the table, to your project, because then they can draw from whatever emotional experience they went through to breathe that life into your script.
Great. Thank you so much. That was great. Great insight. And thank you for being on the show. And I'll put any of your social media bios and anything like that in the links of the video. And until next time, I hope we all get a little wiser. Thank you for watching the Directing Animation Livecast, hosted by Scott Weiser, audio version edited by Kira Horowitz, copyright Scott Weiser LLC 2024. Don't forget to subscribe and ring that notification bell.